Life can be fast-paced, strenuous, and flat-out overwhelming. Life transitions and taboo topics can make it hard to catch your breath. Welcome to Breathe, a podcast that enables you to slow down, get your bearings, and engage in real conversations where no topic is off limits. Breathe is presented by Breath of Life, hosted by David Person and speaker-director Pastor Deblier Snell.
Welcome to Breathe. I'm David Person, and of course, seated across from me, my brother, Pastor.
Yes, sir.
Deblier Snell.
Hey, it's good to see you, my friend. It's another wonderful Monday, start to the new week. And so I know some people dread Mondays, but we want to give a little dose of hope, put some inspiration out in there into the world, into the culture. And I believe that's going to happen today.
I believe it is too.
Yeah.
This is a special episode of Breathe, at least as far as I'm concerned. It's special because we have with us someone who has been a mentor to me, whether she knew it or not, and somebody that I have respected for many, many years, and someone actually who also has a connection to you.
Yeah, it was very much
we'll talk about
a mentor and a auntie to my wife as
That's
well.
Right.
So, yeah.
That's right. Gail Masondo coming to us from Cape Town, South Africa. Gail, how are you?
I'm fine, and it's really nice to be in your presence and nice to make, the family of God is a family, isn't it? It's really a family.
Yeah.
And because we're family, miles don't seem to be so far, huh?
That's
I'm
right.
on the other side of the ocean, and it's just good to be in your presence. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. On the other side of the ocean, and I think it's there, 10 o'clock at night? Is that right? In Cape Town?
Well, I wasn't going to say anything. I wanted to look like I was wide awake. It's 10 o'clock at night. It's a little bit after going, but it's, we're hanging in here.
But we want our audience to know and just really appreciate, just the commitment that you made to be with us, at some expense to your own rest and recuperation. So we appreciate it, and we're glad to have you with us today.
Thank you so much.
So Gail she has been a lot of things to a lot of people through the years. Right now, you're an author. You're I guess we could call you a life coach. I guess is that the proper term, life coach?
Yeah, well, life in recovery, because I really work with particularly women, professional women in particular, because we hide better behind our dress, our clothes, and our title. But may have addictions. It's not just substance that we're addicted to. We're addicted to work. We're addicted to relationships. We're addicted to approval. And the life in recovery, which has been inspired by a wonderful ministry out of California called Life Recovery.
Okay.
And it's worth looking into because in some way, shape, or form, we find ourselves trying to numb emotional pain, and that's where addictions come from.
Yeah.
That's where they come from.
Man, I have a question, man, that just really spawned by what you talked about when you talked about the approval to addiction. I'm just curious, are you seeing anything with that as it relates to generationally in terms of maybe younger people, the way they engage with social media, that's feeding into their perception of themselves and the need for approval? Are you seeing a connect between, that's generationally? Is it more with younger people? And do you see a connection to social media as a result of that?
You know what, my work and my practice as a therapist that works in the clinical arena, the women that I work with are between the ages of 25 and about 51.
Okay.
So, it's generational in the sense that if our parents don't feel good about themselves, that's kind of passed on.
Oh, okay.
And within our faith community, performance is huge. Just look the part. And I need to say that my counseling practice doesn't just involve Adventist members,
Sure,
but for us in particular, for context, we strive really hard to perform and to look the part. It's kind of doing the right things for all the wrong reasons.
Wow.
looking for approval from within the community that we have.
Mm-hmm.
If I do the right thing and say the right thing, it doesn't necessarily mean that I believe.
Yeah.
It just means that I'm just kind of used to showing up and doing what's expected. And that
Wow.
takes a toll
Mm-hmm.
on any generation. It takes a toll.
Okay.
So I could say that my mother passed certain things on to me, or my father and mother, and then I didn't know that it was supposed to be different, so I just passed it on to my own children.
Sure.
I've had to say to my adult children, I never introduced you to Jesus. I introduced you to Pathfinders. I introduced you to AYS. I introduced you to Christian, Adventist primary school, Adventist academy, but I didn't meet Jesus myself till I came to South Africa.
Wow.
As an adult woman.
And I think we should, at this point, especially in light of what you just said, we should let's rewind just a little bit, Gail, and let's try to give folks a sense of your full story, because it is, in my mind, it's an amazing story. You were born in the United States. You grew up in the northeast part of the country in New York State.
In New York, Northeastern Conference.
New York.
I knew Northeastern Conference.
It always comes out, man.
Up. Yeah, I knew that was going to happen.
They are so loyal.
Yeah.
Victory Lake
I knew that was coming next. Victory Lake Camp. I knew that was coming next. And so you actually, pardon me, if I remember correctly, you attended Union College, right? Is that right?
I did.
Yeah.
I did. I tried as far away from New York and Oakwood. Right. Everybody told me I was supposed to go to Oakwood, and I just kind of detoured and went 1,500 miles away from home and went to Union College to study behavioral science and psychology.
Right. And then after college, at some point, you landed in Nashville, right?
Yeah, I got an invitation to come to Nashville.
Okay.
Yes, I lived in Nashville for about 12 years. Mm-hmm. And in that time, I entered the entertainment world. Didn't know there was a business side to the entertainment world. Mm-hmm. But being there, I was asked to manage the group Take Six. They were Alliance at the time, and became Take Six. And I worked with them for about 6 years.
Yeah.
Then was offered through Warner Brothers a creative deal. The first time a Black woman was given that opportunity. Mm-hmm. And out of that production company, my own, came Soulful Celebration, Handel's Messiah, Soulful Celebration. And because of the acclaim of that project, I got a personal invitation to come to South Africa and to executive produce something similar to celebrate the new South Africa.
Wow. Right. Wow. Right. And so while you were in South Africa, pardon me, as I recall, two significant things happened. One thing was that you received a very life-threatening diagnosis. And the other thing was that you met who is now your husband, Victor Masondo. Let's talk about the diagnosis first of all. What happened? You got sick? What happened?
We talked about addiction, right, earlier. And I was addicted to approval. And I didn't know that that's what it was called. But, not feeling good enough, no matter what was going on, I just didn't feel. I remember the first time the guys Take Six got the Grammy for New Artist, and there had never been a gospel group awarded that particular award for New Artist. And I remember someone asking me, how does it feel? And I said, it feels like going to Disneyland by yourself. I couldn't connect at that time. They were saying, do you understand what's happened? Do you really get it? And I couldn't at that time really connect to. I saw the guys as they're the ones who are doing the singing. That's who they are. But I couldn't take any ownership or responsibility for the part I played.
Wow.
And people were saying we want to do an interview, and it was all these interviews lined up like they were lined up for the group. Um, the illness came. I was told I had sarcoidosis, which is very connected to lupus.
Mm-hmm.
And when I got the diagnosis, in fact, I had to go to emergency the night before I was supposed to travel to South Africa. I got deathly ill. And in fact, Shauna, my personal assistant at that time, was with me. And she was just sharing with me this week, because she's here in Cape Town, some things I just forgot. But the doctors told me I had lymphoma because I had so many lesions. They wanted to know, why is she projectile throwing up? That means, you're throwing up and stuff is hitting the walls, really crazy stuff. And they needed to do x-rays, and they did, and my lungs were full of lesions.
Mm.
And they immediately said, we need to call in an oncologist, and you have lymphoma. And Shauna said, no, I rebuked that. And I was like, I've got to go to South Africa. And they were like, y'all don't even understand how sick you really are. But I was able to get on the plane the next day, get to South Africa, and got deathly ill. I was in South Africa less than 24 hours. I never saw the country as a tourist.
Mm.
I got there, got in the hospital, had emergency surgery. What was supposed to be an hour took 7 hours. Why? Because I had inflammation, I had gangrene. 8 inches of my intestines was gangrene. And what's interesting is that the surgery was done on Friday evening, Sabbath morning. And what the surgeon said to me is, we never do surgeries on Saturday. We never. The theater, and that's what we call it here, the theater is closed.
Mm.
And I laid in bed. I was afraid. I'm in Africa. I don't know anybody. I knew no one at that time, David.
Yeah.
Malcolm, I didn't even know him. Malcolm DeCleese's invited me, but I didn't know him. I'm hundreds and thousands of miles away. And I had an attitude with God before this happened. I had gone through a very difficult personal time. I'm laying in bed. I told God I couldn't speak audibly after coming out because I had tubes everywhere. And I laid in bed and I said, I told you I didn't want to come. I'm having this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to come to Africa. And here I am. I know no one. And I've had surgery. I could feel that a lot of work had happened. And this is before I saw the doctor for him to explain what they ended up having to do once they got inside me. And the next morning, the surgeon came in and he said, I don't understand. How did you make the flight?
Mm.
He said, let me back up a second. How did you even get to the airport? No, let me back up. How have you been able to function at all with 8 inches of gangrene? And he brought a picture for me to see what they had to take out of me.
Mm.
And it looked like some sci-fi movie.
Wow.
And he said, and I just need to say to you, this did not happen overnight. Gangrene doesn't happen overnight. We need to find out why so much inflammation in your body. And long story short, after 15 days in a foreign country, in a hospital, and not knowing anyone, they came back to say, we think this is sarcoidosis, but we still need to do more tests. My thinking was, I just need to go home. In fact, when the word got back to your father-in-law, who was my pastor, Pastor Snell, he contacted, my more immediate family and friends, and everyone was praying for me. But the big thing was, this woman is really ill. And I kept saying, no, I just need to get back home. And they're like, you can't. You can't fly home in the state that you're in. What God did for me during that hospital stay, because I was so angry with God, I was angry.
Mm-hmm.
Because I didn't want to come. I came on okay, I'll go. And then got here. And I had turned down the invitation to come 3 times. I don't want to go to South Africa. 1993, 94, the country was still an apartheid government. And the things you see on TV, right? The sound bites, the propaganda, whatever was being shown. It's like I'm in my own civil rights in my own country. Why would I travel 30 something hours
Right.
to be in a situation I know nothing about? But what happened in the hospital during that 15 days is that God allowed me. We got to be careful about telling people God doesn't still hear and speak to us, so we can't ask him. We can't question his authority, but we can ask him as a child, what is going on? And God let me fuss, he let me fume, he let me do all of that. And then one night, one evening, there's nothing like the African sky. Have any of you been here to the continent? Nothing like the African sky.
Agreed.
And this, yeah, you look up and it's like you can pluck a star out of the heavens.
Yep.
The Lord knows I love stars, I love nature, I love trees, I love mountains, I love all of that. And my window in my getting ready to say hotel, my window in the hospital, the sky was brilliant, and it was as if God did a personal picture show. The stars was blinking, and I heard in my own voice, but I knew it was the Lord saying, "Gail, I love you.
Wow.
And you're just going to have to trust me on that, on this." And I thought, trust? Trust? I came all this way, and all of this is happening to me. And day by day, as I started to recover, my heart started to melt. I later became a chaplain at Santon Clinic, the very hospital that I was.
Oh, wow. Wow.
And when I would walk through the halls, it was like hallowed, sacred ground. Because as an adult woman, that's where I met Jesus Christ. That's where I met him personally.
Yeah.
In a place where who would have thought a hospital would become an altar?
How about that? So our mutual friend Malcolm Duplessis recruited you to South Africa to do the project. You eventually did the project. It's called A Place of Hope.
We did.
Right?
Place
A Place of Hope. Yeah. And had some of the biggest names in South African music as well as American R&B and jazz and gospel. And it's a beautiful album, by the way, just a brilliant album.
Thank you.
And in the course of making that album, you met one person in particular. One. Yes. Very significant person to whom you are now married, Victor Masondo. Tell us about Victor.
Victor is one of South Africa's treasures. If you Google him, it says it that way. He's a producer par excellence. He produced Mom Miriam Makeba when she came out of exile, came back to South Africa. She herself picked Victor, having heard some of his previous work. And not only did he become Mom Miriam's music director, but he also became Mom Miriam's music director and Dizzy Gillespie's music director. Wow. They did a world tour together. He's a preacher. He's a PK. He's a preacher's kid. And someone had said to him, Vic, you will not be the formal pastor like your dad, but you are a minister of the gospel. And because of your bass playing skills, and I have to tell you, he's one of the best bass players around.
Very true.
That's his handle. That's his handle. But he's the only African that has a Yamaha endorsement, a Victor Masondo bass. And so, what attracted me to Victor was, do you want to know that? David?
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What attracted me to Baba is his joy. There's one thing, happy comes from external, if I like rain and I'm happy, if it's not rain, but joy can only come from God. And I have benefited from his joyful life.
Wow.
He works hard. He plays hard.
Mm-hmm.
He prays hard. And it has been my relationship with him and watching his relationship with God that kind of made me realize I'm missing out.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Wow.
I knew all the doctrinal things, but I didn't know Jesus.
Mm.
I didn't have that basic in my life. And so through my life with him, what you see is what you get, and it's really honest. And I've appreciated um, finding Jesus through my husband, through his relationship, through
Wow.
his relationship.
Mm.
So let me ask you this. So when you talk about, kind of growing up kind of in this religious construct, but finding Jesus later on in your life, how does that inform just your day-to-day experience? Like, what's the primary difference between just kind of being a person that's religious or just has, truth or even good doctrine, but just knowing the Son for yourself? Like, how does that impact your day-to-day experience?
I wasn't born an Adventist like yourself, Pastor Snell.
Well, I wasn't either.
Yeah, that's what I said. I was
Okay.
born an Adventist like
Correct.
yourself.
Yeah.
And so my mother accepted the Adventist Sabbath truth first.
Okay.
Back in those days, they would baptize you based upon your acceptance of the Adventist Sabbath.
Sure.
Then you were assigned a Bible worker, and through the Bible worker, all the other doctrinal things became evident.
Mm-hmm.
So I my day to day now is the continuation of the conversation in Santon Clinic.
Mm-hmm.
I know you like me, God. I can see you like me. There are evidences of blessings, but I'm not sure you love me.
Mm-hmm.
I had that question. Do you love me? And finally understanding, I didn't even know what love was.
Mm-hmm.
And the day to day has been him revealing himself to me.
Yeah.
And putting me in a place in a foreign country where things are not right or wrong all the time. They're just different.
Mm-hmm.
And having to depend not on my religious upbringing, but on a relationship,
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't even know you could have a relationship, y'all.
Wow.
I just thought, you just do the do, and, you act a part and things will happen. But it's so rewarding to speak. I'm trying right now myself in the last couple of months. I've been saying, there's so many gods now, right? Little G-O-Ds in the world.
Sure.
I've decided not to refer to God as God. I'm trying really hard to refer to him as Yahweh, just in an intimacy that's coming about in my life. And just really being able to embrace the truth. And what is the truth? That I am cared about and cared for, not because of what I do.
Sure.
It's not about what I do. It's about who I know, which invokes what I do.
We do. Sure.
Yeah. It was the other way around.
Yeah.
If I do enough, maybe.
Yeah.
But now it's like, when you love me, you'll do.
Amen.
You'll keep my commandments.
That's a word.
When you love me.
Amen.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's a work in progress.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
So how is your life different now that you are on this new walk with God?
Well, it's just what I said. It's just, I think I think my work with broken and wounded women is just an outpouring of where I've been.
Mm-hmm.
And so I can relate to insecurity. I can relate to not feeling good about yourself. I can relate to if I try harder, then maybe somebody will see me or appreciate me. Generally, our mess becomes our message, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Or the test becomes the testimony.
Mm-hmm.
And so in my practice, I'm not speaking just from theory.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not speaking just from book knowledge. I am able to speak from a personal place of experience, personal experience. And so my life has changed because I don't have to pretend anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I think I spent so much time pretending to be okay without realizing it's okay not to be okay.
Sure.
You know, it's not okay to stay not okay,
Mm-hmm.
but nothing wrong with being able to raise your hand and say, I need help.
Yeah.
You know, I need help and I want help.
I have a question. So if you have, I want to see if you could just give two kind of, I know it's more than you can kind of say in just, maybe a second or two, but if you were talking to somebody as we get ready to wrap up, who is wrestling with that idea of, is God knowable? Can I have a relationship with him that's intimate and personal? Where would you tell them to begin that journey? I know you kind of had an experience that was, really, that had, somewhat traumatic, very different, but just that person that's just in the religion cycle, they're just kind of going through the motions. Yeah. How would you say, a good place to start with knowing God for yourself is where?
You know what? You know what, Pastor Snell? I believe with all of my heart that the pandemic was for the church. And when I say the church, I mean every denomination there was.
Mm-hmm.
I think God allowed it. Why? The enemy used it, shut down the churches, nobody go anywhere, stay at home.
Mm-hmm.
I remember someone from one of our TV stations asked, could I please share what should families do for the 21 hard lockdown days that we were going to have during the pandemic? And how were teenagers and parents supposed to get to know each other? You're passing through the, like ships through the night. And it was God, I think, inviting us particularly, come together, eat dinner at a table, just come together and share with one another, get to know one another, get to know that teenager that you feel is so knucklehead and hard-headed, what's going on in their lives. But if we're not eating together, if we're not talking with each other, if we're not playing together at times, then it's the same thing with our relationship with God. And so if someone says, I'm going to church, but nothing's happening,
right,
then it's almost like you might need to pull not so much completely away, but how about you open up that book?
Open up that word, huh?
Yeah. How about you start in the book of John?
Mm-hmm.
How about you get to know Jesus first on a personal basis? I love the fact that when Jesus came, he said all these commandments, because the Pharisees and Sadducees had a bunch of stuff. They were adding stuff all the time. Yeah. He said, let me tell you, it works on two. Everything falls on two, just two.
Hinges on these two.
God is inviting, just two. Yahweh is inviting us. Get to know me.
Yeah.
Spend some time. How do you do that? That's in nature. That's in journaling.
Yeah.
That's in listening to the word.
Mm-hmm.
That's in reading the word. Mm-hmm. That's in playing music that fills your heart, that fills your soul, that changes.
Yeah.
It is practical in that sense. But Jesus said, love the Lord your God, and then your neighbor as yourself. There's an assumption there, right? That you love yourself.
Sure. Yeah.
But here's the formula for us today. Learn, spend some time. Then I can teach you how to love yourself.
Yeah.
Once you have loved yourself well, you can't help but love your neighbor well. We're doing it the other way around. And so, we're getting confused on what falls where. What's the formula? And there is a formula. There is a formula.
Amen.
Gail, this conversation could easily go another hour, but we're out of time. And I just want to say again, thank you for everything you've been to so many of us. Such a great, even in your imperfections, which I know you acknowledge. And of course, all of us are imperfect.
Sure.
You have been a great example to so many of us and an inspiration to so many of us. And I just want to thank you for sharing your life with us and allowing us to share our lives with you. Thank you. And thank you for being on Breathe this today.
This has been an honor. I've watched you all. So it's been an honor to be here. And it doesn't feel like it's been an hour, but I'll take your word for it.
Well, listen, the honor is ours. And maybe, David, maybe we're going to do an episode on location in Cape Town.
I'm with that.
Yeah, we're going to have to figure out a way to make that happen.
I'm with that. That would be beautiful.
That would be super dope. It would. It would.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much. Thank you, Pastor. Right. Love you, David.
Love you, Gail.
Good to see you.
All right. Tell Victor and everyone else I said hey.
We will.
All right. Well, that is an episode that I will remember this episode for a long time.
It was.
Because of what Gail means to me and has meant to so many people.
I just think, too, the things that she shared, I think many in our audience will resonate with the experience of, okay, I am a church person. But at some point, we all reach a critical moment. The trauma may be different, but at some point, it's got to go from being corporate to personal. And I think what she described is where you find the joy, the freedom, the relief, that sense of acceptance is when it becomes personal. And it's not, as she said, you don't have to kind of pull away from the corporate, but one should feed into the other and augment the other. And I think that's the powerful experience that I pray that everyone is able to have. Because I do think that just the construct alone can leave you empty and wanting. But I think that, man, once it's in the soul and it becomes a part of the DNA, and you are a person that is living according to the Spirit. And the Bible says where the Spirit of the Lord is, there's liberty. That's where the freedom is. And I think she perfectly nailed that. So I think that was beautiful. I think our audience will be blessed.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, another episode in the can, as we say. Yeah. And of course, Pastor Kirk Nugent was not on camera, but he's here. Believe me. He's on the other side of the wall directing and twisting knobs and other stuff. Just want to say again, Pastor, it's always good to see you.
You too.
It's good to be here in this environment. Good to have had Gail with us. And I want to remind our audience that the challenges of life can be met, even the ones that seem to be life-threatening or even life-ending. Just stop, pray, and breathe.
Breathe is produced by David Person for Breath of Life. Executive producer is Debliere Snell, and sound engineer is Kirk Nugent. Audio episodes of Breathe can be found on Apple, Spotify, or Google podcast platforms. For video episodes and extra content, check out the Breath of Life YouTube channel. Breath of Life is faith-based content, resources, and programs from a contemporary urban perspective for those looking for hope and guidance. We believe that every breath we take is a testimony that God is consistent, that He loves us, and has a plan for our lives.